Hello. Welcome to yet another episode of Ari's Overshares, aka an undetermined, uncertain 15 to 40 minute period where I just orate at you and have no idea who's actually paying attention. Also, new for this week, I have notes. Can you believe that? I know, this is really exciting for me, but I wanted to try to make this at least a little bit better than usual. So let's get into it. Loneliness is something that I have struggled with my entire life for varying reasons, varying degrees of responsibility by me, situations when I didn't have friends, when I had friends but wasn't close to them, when I had close friends like I do now and still combat some feelings of loneliness. And I don't want to talk today about my entire journey of overcoming that and all of those different steps. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this video is going to be about overcoming or managing those feelings, those pangs of loneliness now that I have friends. So this is about my life. This is not going to be a prescription for anybody who's watching this on how to combat loneliness in your own life, but I do just want to say that this video is going to be focusing on me feeling lonely still despite having good friends. So it's going to be more relevant, I would imagine, to people who feel like they've got a community or they've got a couple close friends, but they still struggle with that set of feelings. So disclosures out of the way. No, it's still relatively new for me to have what I'm considering now to be a unit of friends, aka people that I know that I can call on either to socialize with regularly or if I have a problem that I feel comfortable calling on for help. It's taken me quite a long time to get here. From my personal perspective, at least, I'm turning 25 in a couple weeks, and I've only felt like I've had this for the past few months, maybe a year, probably like the last 9 months, and honestly like the last 3 to 6 months in a stronger concentration. So it is still relatively new, but there are things that changed in my life, changed my perspective of the friends that I had and the way that I was showing up to my social communities and to myself that have helped me manage and not eliminate, but seriously limit the amount of times that I feel lonely in my own life. So the first thing that I want to touch on is your self relationship and how loving myself has impacted everything. You see, for a really long time, most of my life, I didn't really like myself. I didn't have a good relationship with myself. It was really intimidating and extremely uncomfortable to try to spend time with myself. And I want to make a distinction here. I think that there is a difference between spending time by yourself and spending time with yourself. Spending time by yourself kind of just assumes that you're alone, that it's you in a room and that's sort of it. But spending time with yourself it kind of has this additional actionable heft to it. Like there's something that you're doing with yourself. You are there for yourself. You are there with yourself as opposed to just being alone. It's kind of taking that just objectiveness, that factual state of being by yourself one step further. And now I know how to spend time with myself, and I love spending time with myself. I think the dates that I've been taking myself on have been a huge help in that regard. And one day, I'm going to bookmark this thought. I do want to do sort of like my prescription for how I learned to spend time with myself and not just tolerate it, but learn how to become safe and comfortable there and ultimately end up enjoying it. But the reason that specifically is important is because I never valued the relationship that I had with myself, I would put spending time with other people on a pedestal. I would value that time greater than I valued the time that I could spend and enjoy by myself. And that became a problem in many ways. It became a problem because even in the relationships that I have and had in my life that I enjoyed, where the person was really a close, good friend of mine, and I knew that they were adding value to my life and my day, if I had plans to see them, for instance, I would just be kind of like showing up to 24 to 72 hours before seeing them with almost this sigh of relief on myself, like, ooh, Saturday or Sunday, whatever the day is, for that example, I know that I don't need to spend time by myself. I don't need to spend time with myself. That feels good. And so there would be this level of me showing up to other people in my life, not actually excited to see them and spend time with them, but coming out of this fear of being alone that they were saving me from, which made me not really show up consciously to those gatherings, or at least not as consciously and presently as I possibly could, and also created a really bad side effect for me in my life, which was that things come up in our lives all the time. That's not a shocker. So when people would cancel on me, or they would postpone, or they'd be like, oh, I'm running late, I actually can't meet here anymore, but hey, I can't do Saturday, but can you do Sunday? Those very understandable, very natural and normal things that people would kind of just present to me were like massive crushing blows, because putting that time on that pedestal, having that expectation of that person that I was going to kind of like show up to see, made the blows of there being a change or there being a cancellation just so unnecessarily large. And it puts a lot of pressure on other people, and it puts a lot of pain on yourself. And so learning how to spend and enjoy time with myself has kind of leveled out or sort of balanced the scales. So, if it still gives me a ton of enjoyment to see people, which is very normal and natural, like we're human beings, we're social creatures, I kind of was like down here. It's kind of hard because I've got the phone recording the audio in my hand, but like my relationship with myself was like here. And so now I've kind of brought them up. So I value, of course, my friends, and maybe I value them a little bit more, but these are much, much closer together than they were before. And so I don't really care as much, or it doesn't hurt as much when people flake, when people literally don't show up, when people cancel last minute, when there's a change in the schedule, because this kind of no longer becomes an option. But instead of fearing this like drop or this kind of like literal pit of despair of what's awaiting for me because I don't have this kind of crutch, I'm like, oh, no worries. I can just, shift over to here and take myself on a date, or remember that I have groceries that I have to buy, or be like, I'm going to show up for myself and make a new meal, which is literally something that I did yesterday. Today, I was actually supposed to potentially see somebody, and it just didn't work out. And I took myself on a different date, and I had a blast today. And I did a bunch of things that I wouldn't have done had I been able to see that person initially. So you get the point. Learning how to love myself and develop a positive self-relationship has been instrumental in my ability to not just show up for myself, but to show up to and for the other people in my life. Now, the next major tenet has a little bit less to do with me, and now really does start to get into this kind of like network of friends that I've been fortunate enough to be able to develop over the last few months, years, what have you. And this has been a really fundamental shift in the way that I view these friendships and the way that I sort of utilize them in my life. I think I've always been really good about seeing people on some sort of a rotation and being really present when I would catch up with people. I've never really felt like that's something that I struggle with. I think that kind of just is because it is who I am. I'm really good at engaging people and showing up and being present because I thoroughly enjoy seeing the people who I'm showing up for. Like, it's just a breeze to show up for them in that way, if that makes sense. Which, flag for you, if you don't feel like it's a breeze to show up to see people, might be a sign that you're just spending time with or making time for people who aren't really providing value or making you feel good in your life. So be aware of that. That's really dangerous. Instead of just showing up to these kind of like one-off rotational, conversations with people or catch-ups with people, I started to really realize that I wanted to build a community in my life. I wanted to build a sense of community. I wanted to build a brotherhood. I wanted to feel like the people around me were this somewhat cohesive network of human beings that I felt like were my tribe. And that's something that I just started to kind of develop over time. It really was an evolution. It's still in its it's still in its infancy, or it's an infant stage of that kind of evolution, because it's not like every single one of my friends is friends with every other one of my friends, and like there's this totally enmeshed network. But I think also just throwing my apartment warming party was a huge first step on that. Bringing everybody from across all of these different social circles, and my friend from college, and my one or two friends from high school, and my ex-boyfriend, and like friends from my brother's friends, and like bringing all these people into one room and just letting them, whatever magic was going to form was really helpful for that. And actually a couple weeks ago, I was getting coffee with one of my friends, who we were both in the town that's, 5 minutes from another group of friends, and we kind of just like all hung out and we got lunch together, and it was such a beautiful synergy, kind of serendipitous, not really planned, but that kind of stuff I've been able to kind of engender now. And I think I'm able to really kind of create that now because I'm really focused on creating this brotherhood. It's almost very military-like, where I've started to kind of really think about, who's in my life, who would show up to my funeral, who really does care for me in whatever ways that they do, and who do I value? And just becoming really aware of what these people bring to my life in a good way, and recognizing like I want to celebrate them more than just this casual, grease the wheel sort of catch up over coffee that we do. I want to view them like a brother or like a sister. I want to show up so conscious to their role in my life for being someone who makes my nervous system shut down, and who makes me feel safe, and who can really invigorate these really, honestly, for me, kind of hard to stimulate areas of my personality or presence or interest. People who can engage me are kind of rare, because I feel like I do have a lot going on. And so I've just become really conscious of that. I think as I've gotten older and I started to ask that question, who would show up to my funeral, who really does care about me, even if I'm not thinking on a daily basis that deep about it. Like, there are plenty of people who would care if I passed away. There are plenty of people who would show up, and there are probably more people in this world that would show up that would surprise me than not. And I know this because I would feel that way about so many other people if I was on the flip end of that. So, I just really want to emphasize that point, that these are more than friends now. And it's not just about seeing these people in a one-off way anymore. It's about really like, I show up to that time so intentionally and with this really conscious, powerful feeling of just relationship management and building a better relationship with these people in my life, and being like, I want to show up for you. We're getting together, and I want you to know how much I love you. I want you to know how much I care for you, and I want you to know how much I'm there for you and will be there for you. If you need help, if you're struggling with something emotionally, physically, financially, I want you to know that you can call on me and I will be there for you, because that's what a brother does. That's what brotherhood is about, at least to me. It feels very military. I don't know really where that started to kind of percolate for me. Maybe it's just because I've been listening to way more podcasts, and a lot of these podcast guests have been coming from military backgrounds, or they talk about their lives in these ways where they're like, I want to show up, I want to serve. I know serving has also become really important to me over the last few months. So it's all kind of just enmeshing and ingraining. And it again just points back to like, the more time you can spend in the present, being grateful for what you have, and engendering that fundamental sense of gratitude for your life and what you've got going on in your life, and you become aware of how well things are going and how good you have it, which I do. I have it really amazingly, and I've never really consciously thought about that, but now I am. It makes it so like a no-brainer to show up and tell people that and to communicate that. And I don't want any one of my friends, I don't want any member of my tribe, kind of sounds like arrogant or like weird, but it's true. Like, I don't want any member of my community to have any shred of a doubt that I'd be there for them. Whether or not they feel the need to call on me, that's up to them. I can't control that. It's not my job, not my responsibility, and not my goal to control that. But I want them to know from the bottom of my heart, look, I've got you. We've got each other. And if you need something, I'm going to be there. I 100% got that from my friend Cole, who's in medical school now. And I've just really been embodying that energy. I had a friend stay with me a couple weeks ago because she was in town for a tournament. And I was like, just stay. I'll be here. Whatever you need, I'll get your groceries. I'm not thinking about it because that just sends a ripple effect out. I want people to feel safe around me and good. And this conscious community building has been such a key because it kind of bleeds into making these more than friendships. They're not just friendships anymore. Even if you exclude the fact that I said that I'm trying to kind of integrate everybody into a cohesive tribe where, we're doing more gatherings together and we're kind of like mashing different social networks together. Even if you just hold that aside for now, it's the way that I'm just showing up and treating people in my life as a community. And I'm not saying, oh, I've got my friend Allie or, oh, I've got my friend Cole, and feeling kind of like I'm just one cog in this sort of, machine or, one person in this sort of network or whatever. I have become aware that I have a community. And with community comes responsibility, and that responsibility is a privilege, and that community is a privilege, and I'm so grateful for it. And thinking about everyone that I have as a community has helped me feel safer in the world. There's such an energy behind the statement, I've got a community and this is mine, as opposed to being like, I have friends. Just think about that. Think about the difference in the energy or the significance or the feeling of saying, I've got a community versus saying, I've got friends. I've got a community now. I know that I have a community. And thinking about a community, I just come back to that thing that everybody knows, which is that saying that's like the sum is greater, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When you know that you've got a system in place and you can point to that one word, community, there's such a gravitas, there's such a heaviness, like a wonderful heaviness, a power in that word community. And I've got that now, and I'm going to leverage that now. I think that has been a fundamental key. So look to the people around you in your life. Look to your friends. Be like, what do I have in common here? Is there a way that I can kind of integrate this? Or even if I don't want to integrate this, I guess I missed somewhat important part, which is that I don't have like one circle of friends. I have a lot of one-off friends that I know from, different places and situations and things. If you have a group of friends already that you hang out with, I guess this is less relevant. But even still, just making that a conscious reality of like, we've got each other, dude. Like this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and it's something worth celebrating. All right, now the last thing that I want to touch on this ties into that feeling or that aspect of building a community consciously. And it is that I am showing up to my friends and showing them and telling them over and over again, I've got you. We've got each other. Life is hard. We go through things. I want you to know that you don't need to suffer alone. You don't need to suck through these things alone. I'm there for you. And I've felt the power and the beauty on the presenting end of that, but the way that people receive that from me, even friends that I've had for years, friends that I've known and have really good relationships with, just showing up in this lens that I'm like, I'm here for you. This is so important for me to be here right now, has helped them. And it's definitely enhanced the value of our connections. And I can tell that it means a lot to them. And so because I'm taking this, this is a brotherhood kind of approach with my friends now, brotherhood means that you cannot separate the fact that there's a person A and a person B. It's not just someone receiving and someone giving. It's no longer me just sitting down and being like, you need help, I'm there for you. I've built a brotherhood, I've built a sisterhood, and I've built a community with all of these people in my life. And now it feels safe enough to ask for help if I need it. That's the last tenet. That's the most important piece in all of this, is that I have, over the last few months, given myself the permission to ask for help. Have I needed it? Not so much. but I know I'm going to need it. And I know that there are certain things in my life today that I'm struggling with that I'm literally about to send a text probably the second I stop recording this video to one of my friends and be like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm struggling with this one thing. I've tried to fix it myself, but I know that you are the guy to help me with this problem. Can we please just get on the phone for an hour, and I want to share what's on my mind. And because I'm showing up to all of these people in my life as a community and as a brotherhood, that's what brothers do. And I don't feel like it's my responsibility anymore to just show up for other people and to be there for them. I do feel like I have the right to ask for help. I have the right to ask for the same thing from my brothers that I am giving to them or that I am offering to them. And it feels safe to do that because I have the right people in my life. I've got superior quality people in this community, and I feel like I don't need to do it alone anymore. And if there's one thing that I'm going to say to encompass this video or bring it full circle to wrap things up, is that community is one of the most important parts of being human. You need to have a strong sense of self and a strong self-concept. You need to work on that self-love. You need to realize that you are worthy of love and belonging, and that you have a big, full heart that is so capable of showing up in this world and serving yourself and serving others. But we're social creatures. We're not meant to do life alone. We're not meant to do this whole thing on our own. And so you don't want to be blindly following self-love either, where you're like, I love myself so much, I don't need anybody else's love. Because let me tell you something, I think that's a load of BS. I think everybody needs love, and I think it's healthy to need and to want love. Build your community. Look to the people around you. Ask yourself, what do I need? Who am I? Who do I want to be? Where am I going? How can I get there? And how can the people in my life and around me who I know love me and care to see me succeed and win and become my best self, how can they help me on my journey to get there? Because if there is one thing, and it's not my original saying, and it's not my original thought, and they're not my original words, but if there is one thing, I think it's an African proverb. It goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You don't need to be lonely. If you can give yourself the permission to be loved, if you can give yourself the permission to ask for help when you need it, and if you can show the people around you that you are there to serve them and to help them. And if you're doing all those things, you have the right to ask for that help in return. Probably have the right to ask for it anyway, but that sounded really powerful, so I'm just going to end it there. But that's my little insecure footnote that someone's listening to this and they might have just heard me say that you only deserve to ask for help if you're helping other people, which is totally not true. But I really like the proverb, and I wish I just ended this video. And now things are getting really awkward. Why am I whispering? Who's even listening to this video anymore? I get 15 to 25 views on these videos. Can you guys, if you're listening to this to the very end, can somebody just comment and be like, I heard you whispering at the end? What's wrong with you doing this ASMR stuff, Ari? Because this is just getting really awkward now. The video's at 27. I like that. Have a good day. I love you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.